Hi, this is Celeste, and this is your situation report for this week. And we are going to Snowball Earth. And you may wonder what Snowball Earth is. Snowball Earth is a period of time where the whole Earth gets encased in snow and ice. You might know it as an ice age, but it's a bigger ice age. It's like a periodic or cyclical ice age that really engulfs the whole world. Maybe a few places around the equator are not yet. There's many other factors that play in, such as the collapse of our magnetosphere. And as of right now, we've lost about 25% of our magnetosphere. And why does that matter? Because the magnetosphere is the barrier that is protecting us from cosmic rays. And once cosmic rays flood our Earth's atmosphere, they do several things. They act as nucleators for snow and ice. It does fill our atmosphere with particles, which then make clouds. But it gets very cold temperatures. And so there are these periods in Earth where it gets really cold, and then it's warm, then it's cold again. And there are multiple layers of these. There's the really bad ones, then there's the big ice ages, and then there's little mini ice ages in between. Like around 1800, the beginning of the 1800s was considered a little ice age. And if you study London, there are actually accounts of the rivers freezing over and people playing. And if you think, oh, so I am going to cover the gambit today. I'm going to talk about the CIA, the Adam and Eve story. What is Snowball Earth? How is our government preparing? So you're going to get a lot of information, but I want to start out with some books so that you know that this is a real phenomena. So this is a Cold Welcome, obviously by Sam White. I really encourage you to get these books. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try and get a hold of Sam and see if I can't interview him. But it is about the Little Ice Age in Europe and North America. So we've got evidence. Okay, so I am going to be talking about the Adam and Eve story. Well, so Adam and Eve story was classified until 2013 because they didn't want you to know the real truth. So it was written by Chan Thomas, who was going to tell you the real truth. So the CIA decided they didn't want you to know the truth, so they classified his book, and then they put in Charles Hapgood as a ringer. And so this is his version, the Earth shifting crust, but basically it gives you a lot of false information, but it's a good reference so that you know you can discern between the truth and an error. Next, we have A World in Peril. I'm caught in my cord here. World in Peril by Ken White. And this has got some real interesting information. If you want to buy this book, it is very pricey, but it gives you the origin, mission, and scientific findings at the poles. Very interesting. We've got In the Beginning about creation. Yes, we go into creation. Obviously, Adam and Eve with Walt Brown, a PhD. Great book to have. And then I just discovered this morning. So I got this book when I'm doing my research over the past decades on catastrophism. And I use this book on maps of the ancient sea kings. And it's very interesting. It goes along with the biblical, um, at the time of Peleg, well, all the continents were one and then they were broken off into separate continents. But this morning I discovered, guess who's the author? Um, oh, this is Charles Hapgood. Yeah, same. It is the CIA ringer. So if you do get this book, and I tell you, it really is fascinating with all the old sea maps, but can you trust it because he was a CIA ringer, to give you a false narrative? So I don't know, I'm just putting it out there, but I really enjoy the book. But now I'm like, oh, do I use it or don't I use it? So the first thing we're going to do is, so you're prepping, you've got your prep stored up, and you've made preparation for food. You've made preparations for what do you do for martial law. You've made preparations for many different things, many contingencies. What are you doing about your health? That type of thing. So many of us have done physical preps, but sometimes we neglect the spiritual. But in this age of climate change, and I know you've heard about global warming, climate change, and the like. So, who actually is in control? Of course, the World Economic Forum, the UN, wants you to believe it's you dirty humans, it's industrialization, it's agriculture. But we are going to find out, and I've got to share screen. I'm so excited to get this information to you that I'm leaping up, and I was going to forget how to share, that I needed to share screen. So I'm going to share it so that you can see. Now, this was, we've all got our wake up moments. And I was out in my greenhouse and I was watering my tomatoes, and I was taking a class from Jerusalem on this particular psalm, and I just stopped dead in my tracks. And I had been a prepper for decades at this point, and I had never really put two and two together. You really have to go into the Hebrew to get the full flavor of it. And so I'm going to add a little bit to it. I'm going to start with verse 13. He has strengthened the bars of thy gates. He hath blessed thy children within thee. He maketh peace in thy borders, and he filleth thee with the finest of wheat. This is like the good times of Joseph, the times of plenty, the times of abundance. And then all of a sudden it goes into the time of judgment, the time of famine. So in verse 15, we go into that, but not the famine part. He sendeth forth his commandment. We're talking about Creator God here, upon the earth, and his word runneth very swiftly. So, what is about to happen happens at lightning, you might say hypersonic speed. He giveth the snow like wool, and he scattereth the hoarfrost like ashes. He casteth forth his ice like morsels. Who can stand before his cold? He sendeth out his word, and he melteth them, and he causes his wind to blow and the waters to flow. And so what this is talking about is that um, this can happen over a decade or 100 years or several hundred years or even 1,000 years, or it can happen on a daily basis where the Lord himself encases the whole earth by his word, and then the next moment he sends blazing heat upon the earth and he melts all of the ice. So we're going to go through this time of upheaval, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Is there evidence that this upheaval has happened in the past? And we know, since the word says that it is going to happen, that it will happen in the future. And we are going to look at a government document that is going to be shocking to you. So let's see, I'm going to get this tab out of the way. And I'm going to go to this one. This is from Knowable Magazine. Oops. And Celeste, like I said, she's so excited she's forgetting to share screen. I have to get this shared or you're not going to be able to see it. Okay, so this is from Knowable Magazine. So Snowball Earth really is a real thing. Um, there is geologic, atmospheric, all sorts of evidence. Now, one thing I just want you to pay attention is they talk in billion year cycles. And yes, I think probably there is some validity to that. But it also comes down to even every 600 years and 2,000 years. So you have to realize that they use ice ball Earth, most scientists and researchers, as a justification for the global agenda of climate change, depopulation, all these regulations, and so forth, which we'll get to when we get to Senate Bill 4488. But right now, back to um, Snowball Earth. They also, the last time that Snowball Earth happened, uh, 90% of all life on Earth became extinct. 90%. And you go, well, that's pretty scary. The good news is look at all the plants around you, look at the humans around you. Mankind survived, the plants survived. Yes, many species went extinct, but then new species came back, some adapted. In previous ice ages, humans went to the tunnel system. Unfortunately, uh, right now the government, the military, has pretty much commandeered all the tunnels that ancient man or early man went to escape these ice ages. They even, if you go to Turkey, maybe someday we can talk about it. There's actually some ruins there. It's fascinating. Multi-level decks. You might almost might want to think of it as an ice age ark, because it has a level for humans, it has a level for waste, it has a level for animals, it has a level for food storage. Very interesting. And so this is an archaeological ruin in Turkey. So, and they did go to those tunnels, um, to avoid the cosmic rays and what was happening upon the face of the earth. Unfortunately, like I said, we don't are not going to have that option unless you know of some abandoned railroad tunnels or maybe something like that. Maybe even some mining tunnels. David and I did explore some of those. So Snowball Earth was coined in 1989, but I remember in the 1970s they were talking about there's going to be an ice age. And then after the 70s, it changed with Al Gore, and it was going to be global warming, uh, because they didn't want you to prepare. And you've got to understand the background of preparedness was, originally civil defense, where they actually did prepare the people, then went to FEMA, which it was managed by the political agenda, and DHS we have now. So we're going to be looking at that in a few minutes. I just wanted you to look at this. It's at Knowable Magazine, and you can look up the story on Snowball Earth yourself. What did it look like? As I said, the whole Earth was encased in snow and ice, and it has happened periodically throughout. There is geology about it. Here is some examples of the glacial dropstone in Nambia. What triggers the events? Pretty much the collapse of the magnetosphere, but this is a cyclical event, but it does happen periodically, but it is God, as we saw in Psalm 147, that sends out his word, and then it starts to occur. Like I said, there's the important thing takeaways are there's big ones and little events, and it does leave like moraine and different. There's also an isotope that is in the ice that they know that this happened. And they use it, the researchers and scientists use it. They said this is, of course, we were supposedly, they all believe in panspermia, that life on Earth was seeded by bacteria or a microbe, let's say, not necessarily bacteria, but a microbe that hitchhiked on its way to planet Earth. And and then during these periodic ice ages, mankind and plants and animals then became complex. They became the what you know as a human now. The government does believe in it. Maybe someday I should have brought that document up. It's if you write me at Celeste at celestialreport.com and put Snowball Earth, and you want that document that I have from DHS, I can give it to you about their belief in panspermia. So anyway, it goes on that I'm not going into great detail about it because it is very evolutionary. I don't believe in it. So I'm not going to bore you with the details, but I think it's important to just kind of do a cursory look at it and to realize that this really truly is something that you have to be concerned about. Now we're going to pop over. Once again, I'm just going to do a quick overview of what does Wikipedia say, and then we're going to go to the story that broke that was classified by the CIA, and then to what is the government doing about it. So let me go to Wikipedia really quickly. Once again, that's very evolutionary. It gives the narrative that they want you to. So you here you see, here's this supposedly ice age, and then the different how life. No, I guess it's this one. So see, they said, oh, you were just, it gives the ice age period, and it starts with single cell life, then photosynthesis. They're really using this in synthetic biology. They're going to say that it is them with synthetic biology, and partly they're right, but it is also that we're going into this new ice age period. And then they say in their evolutionary belief that then came multicellular life, the arthropods, the dinosaurs, the mammals, the flowers, the birds, and the primates. And so they go in to the evidence. Once again, this is very global agenda, and it is very evolutionary. So if you want to go into it, you can. It is very interesting about the paleomagnetism. So if I were you, I would go into that. It's very interesting, like at Gölbekli Tepe, which is the oldest archaeological civilization dig. Um, the the stone monuments or um, totem poles, if you were, changed their magnetism. So during these events, we know that there is a switch in magnetism. Now, how do I tie in the new synthetic biology where with the nanoparticles, they are doing two things? They're changing the spin of our atoms so that they are rotating differently in the reverse of what they used to. And the very interesting thing is it changes the magnetism of our body. So what is going to happen as we deepen into this collapse of the magnetosphere? I'm not sure. I still have to do a deep dive into that. But I want you to know that during this time, that paleomagnetism during this ice age does cause some different things with the magnetic fields of different things. Um, there here, this is kind of interesting if you are a geology buff. It talks about the glacial deposit, the tilts, and different things. and the different glacial striations, which is important. Here's where it talks about the carbon isotopes. I don't know if they talk about the one for there is an isotope. Mm, I don't see it in this section. There is a radioactive isotope that they have found in the ice. I don't know if they talk about it later or not. That shows that we did in fact have um, various ice ages. There is changing acidity on the planet space. Oh, yes, they do. So it's iridium. So iridium is the element that is in our Earth's core, but also it comes from the cosmic ray particles that are flooding our atmosphere. They will be so for the rest of our lives, our time on Earth. And they are able to find the iridium that comes from space, indicating an ice age in the ice at the poles and various glaciers around the Earth. It goes into the mechanisms. If you're going to study that, like I said, they're going to give you the UN agenda, it's global warming, blah, blah, blah. But that's why we started with Psalm 47 because it's not really. Um, it's not because you're living you caused this to our planet. Because quite frankly, it's happening to all of the planets. Actually, there was dust. I would really love to have the luxury of time up here, space dust, to bring to you that. So we've got dust entering our solar system and it's causing havoc. It's entered our atmosphere and it's going to cause all sorts of havoc throughout our solar system. The chemistry of the sun is changing. It really is quite a deal here. So I'll get done with that. And let me see. I am going now. Okay, I told you about Chan Thomas's Adam and Eve story. Now, this is not the Adam and Eve story of the Bible. It's not intended to be. It is just a book about the pole shift, basically, what's going to happen. He mentions a little bit about the ice age. Why are dinosaur bones all crushed up? A lot of you write me and say, oh, where is the safe strategic location where I can be? So, um, when so Chan Thomas wrote this book in the 1960s, the Adam and Eve story, and it was promptly classified because the CIA did not want you to prep. So then Charles Hapgood came into the picture, and he was the ringer to tell you the false narrative so that you wouldn't, everything's okay here, nothing to see, move along, and to give you some wrong information. Well, in 2013, this document right here, I'm hoping that you can see this document. It's 62 pages. This is the actual Adam and Eve story. It's very pricey if you can get it. I think at this point there are some reprints. And what does it go into? I don't know if I can make this bigger. So basically, it goes into cataclysms revisited, which I think is the postlude, the conclusion, and a little bit about the author. It does talk about India, Greece, and Egypt towards the end. Now, the original story, once it was released in 2013, unless you had the hard copy book, which there wasn't very many, it was not very many pages. There is a sanitized version. I can't remember if it was 40 or 50 pages. But what does it go into? What does it go into? It goes into the next cataclysm, the great floods, the story of how it happened, what was happening in the heavens, what was happening upon the face of the earth, and how is this going to impact each one of us. It was at that time that they decided they needed synthetic biology, that to go from carbon life form to a silicon life form, where you would just upload your consciousness, and that you would not need oxygen, you would not need food, you would not, you could endure uh, super hot or super cold, which is what we saw in Psalm 147. He talks a lot about Genesis, then goes into uh, it revisited um, in the aftermath or the postlude. So there was three parts to the Chan Thomas's story: the prelude, the bulk of the Adam and Eve story, and the postlude, which they call the aftermath. Our precursor, evolution, Jesus, the history, angels and UFOs, Jesus and cataclysms, afterthoughts, the postlude, after effects, and what's happening to our magnetic field. Now, I put a link in here, and so I guess you're going to have to specify which document you want. This is the uncensored 120 pages. So if you get something 120 to 127 pages, you have the uncensored version. Then if you go to the CIA Gov, I'm going to try pushing this once, but I'm not sure I'll have success. I tried earlier on my Mac and I was not able to get to it because they were preventing me. I guess it's not going to let me. So I do have this document available for you. I have both the uncensored and the censored version. So this is what it looks like. And actually, I was surprised when I went to the CIA reading room this morning. And you might be scared to go to the CIA reading room. Like I said, I had no problem on my other computer, but on this computer I did. And what I found is there's been a series of FOIA requests, and the whole Adam and Eve story was made public after a number of people had the hard copy and they wanted to see, um, get it declassified so people could actually read it for themselves. But there's been a flurry. So it became declassified in 2013. And as you can see, here's 2019, the passions and perils of nationhood. Um, Look at this: independence is a fetish, fad, and totem of the times. Very interesting. So these were the things that got revealed since 2013 regarding the Adam and Eve story. So it does pay to get this document and look it over, even though um, this is really kind of hard to read. Let me go down here, and then I've got in this document. Do I have the whole? I have the. This is all the redacted and um, censored. Well, this is not the censored. This isn't the redacted one. So anyway, these are all of the information that has happened between 2013 and 2019. I don't see any activity since that. Okay, now I've got to get this document out of the way. Now that was the censored version, except for the FOIA information release. Now I'm going to show you the 120-page real version. So let's look at this. This talks about the Earth, what's going on inside the Earth. No, you can't get this book from this publisher. I tried, but I do believe, like I said, I think I saw some places that it was for sale. And then it's got all sorts of interesting things. Like I said, this isn't the biblical Adam and Eve story. So talks about the next cataclysm, which is we are in progress right now, the great floods, the story, the event, the genesis, cataclysms rebuilt, revisited, and the conclusion. So you can have that available to you. I'm going to get rid of tabs so that I don't freeze my screen, because next we are going to go to Senate Bill 4488. And if you do live in a different country, I would highly recommend if you use the title, which hopefully I can get this. Oh, am I sharing the screen? I don't think I'm sharing the screen on this. So I have to share the screen. Okay, now you can see it. It's Senate Bill 4488. What is the name of it? You'll see it was just entered last year. Where is it? Hmm, that's interesting. Oh, here it is. Global Catas- Catastrophic Risk Management Act of 2002. So it was entered into the Senate as a bill in 2000, June of 2022. In December of 2022, now we're going to go through this document. They decided that they were not going to take any action on it. I think that it was just too dangerous. It gave away the playbook. They didn't want you to know about it. But what they did say in December of 2022 is that they were going to put this bill in an omnibus, a pork. They were going to hide it in other legislation this year. So even though this particular bill did not, it was killed, as they say, they were still going to proceed. It was going to go through. They were just going to hide it. So you would not know unless you look at the language of every single bill that they propose, which is can be quite time consuming. Now, I am showing you how it was first introduced in June, I think it was June 23rd of last year, and use that catastrophic, uh, the, the title, if you live in a different country, because you will find it in your country. For instance, Britain, India, you should be able to find this, countries in South America, you should be able to find a same bill because this is the playbook. So here we go. Global catastrophic risk management. That's what you want to look for in your respective countries. So we're going to go into the definitions. Oh my gosh. So definitions, a basic need. So does anybody here hear universal income as I read this? Like, just think. Okay, so what is a basic need? It means any good, service, activity necessary to protect health, safety, and the general welfare of the civilian population of the United States. And that includes food, water, shelter, basic communications, and public safety. Okay, I have a couple issues with this. One, I do believe that this is universal income under catastrophe. I see here health, safety, and general welfare. That is the emergency clause. That suspends the Constitution of the United States. The last time they used this was with COVID, the beginning of COVID, um, back in 2020. But they are saying that the government, now you're not going to be doing this on your own, but the government is going to provide you your food, your water, your shelter, your communication, and your public safety. That is why Klaus Schwab could sit there and say, "You will own nothing and be happy." And he was not just talking to the people of the United States, he was talking to the people of the world. Why? Because the governments are going to seize all of these, the food, the water, the shelter, the communication, and the public safety, and they will dole it out as they see fit. But it gets better, so let's move along. What is well, let me get it to the center of the screen. What is a catastrophic incident? The term catastrophic incident means an incident, whether caused by humans or natural events, in which multiple levels of the United States critical infrastructure are destroyed, damaged, or interrupted in sufficient magnitude to threaten, once again, the emergency clause, the health, safety, and general welfare of the civilian population of the United States. Now, notice they're not worried about the government or the military, and we will see why in a little bit. We're not going to worry about the committee. We're not going to worry about that. Okay, what is existential risk? The term existential risk means the risk of human extinction. People, we are facing human extinction on two levels. One, by um, the word of the Lord in judgment. But if you are in Jesus Christ, covered by the blood of the Lamb, then you have an eternity. You don't have to worry about this. When our physical, this is just a vessel that carries your spirit through this earth. And at the end, you'll have eternal life if you know Jesus Christ. So you don't have to worry about that one. But if you don't know Jesus Christ, right now might be a good time to accept the free gift of salvation. What is a global catastrophic risk? The term global catastrophic risk means the risk of events or incidents conse- uh, consequential enough to significantly harm, set back, or destroy human civilization at a global scale. So now, even if all the humans were destroyed, they are also saying that these catastrophes will destroy human civilization. It is if they want to erase that humans ever lived on this planet. And this is going to make much more sense by the time we get to the end. So, what is a global catastrophic and existential? Sorry, I should take a drink here of some tea. Existential threat. The term global catastrophic and existential threat means those threats with varying likelihood can produce consequences severe enough to result in significant harm and destruction of human civilization. Now, see, they've bypassed the humans. They're talking about harm or destruction of human civilization at a global scale, or and then lead to human extinction. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Examples. Now, this is pay very close attention. Examples of global catastrophic and existential threats include severe global pandemics. Oh, okay. Nuclear war, asteroid and comet impacts, supervolcanoes, and get this, sudden and severe changes to the climate, Snowball Earth, one day hot, one day freezing, and the intentional or accidental threats arising from the use and development of emerging technologies. There you have it. They are going to use, whether it's intentional or accidental, just like with the pandemic, they are going to use emerging technologies, even if it means the extinction of people and the destruction of all human civilization. Now, I am FEMA certified in exercises. I've designed exercises. I've participated in more exercises than I even know. and they will be doing exercises. So, why am I particularly interested about this insert about the national exercise? Because it was proposed to have a national level exercise, and maybe some tabletops on this scenario of this cataclysmic and existential threat. Um, what I'm interested in is that they specifically mention post Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act of 2006. Now, Katrina was very interesting. In my humble belief and working where I did, I would say that it was orchestrated, it was weaponized weather, and that they had about 20 different objectives, of which they all met 100% with no public outcry. Everything from euthanizing the elderly in nursing homes, which we also saw during the you know what event, to seizing of property, seizing of arms, putting people in a dome without food, water, or medical attention, and watching it with cameras live to see how Mad Max it would go. Then this post Katrina Emergency Management Act reform basically is a bill that was post Katrina, and they said it was proposed to Congress that in the event of a nuclear disaster and your children were at school, that as a parent you would not mind if your children were not released to you. So it was put into place. It was beta tested out in Washington state, I know for sure, and probably other places as well. That it was a bill about reunification of you and your children. This has played out both, had significant after effects then to now. So even though it was proposed and passed in a nuclear event, now it is, we have to look at it, is the final draft of this particular bill said not, it scratched out nuclear, which is it's called striking out, and they put in the event that the environment is not safe. Now, in the eyes of the planetary managers, the UN, they believe that the environment is not safe and that it's a result of humanity, and they want the children. We can see that on, through the education system, this transgender thing that's going on right now. So basically, you as a result of this particular bill, and why I believe it's so pivotal, basically, when you take your children to any place that's like daycare or school, a public school, even charter schools, you are turning over custody of your child to that institution. And then if an emergency is called, then they do not have to release your children. You can turn up there and they will not. They will have their own facility locked down, and your children will not be um, returned to you. Now, how does this play out? What if you don't have children or grandchildren? We saw this during the pathogen in 2020. We saw that people were put in a medical facility, and even though they wanted to get out, they were unable to, because as soon as they went to the emergency room, when they signed those papers to get medical treatment, they were transferring custody to the hospital. So you need to understand that, especially if you were given any medication. And this, I could go on this. We're not going to go into about the tribes. They do talk about the membership, all the different committees, from national security to science and technology to national intelligence, all the intelligence agencies, Department of Energy, Health and Human Services, all the, all the actors that we know: environmental protection, a National Science Foundation, the Treasury, the defense. I mean, everybody's involved in this. Let me see. I think there was some. Oh, here we go. So, remember, I told you that they don't really, um, uh, it's not about uh, taking care of the civilians. It's about taking care of the government and the military. And we see this right here in Section 5, report on continuity of operations and continuity of government. That you might know this by the acronym of COOP, COOP, or COG, COG. And so this is basically goes on and it talks about how they are going to their plan to continue operating the government and continuity of government planning, just making sure that the government survives even though there's no humans left. So you wonder about the quantum computer. Is it going to be around or not? And it in section 6, I'll bring it up here, it talks about to ensure the health, safety, and general welfare of the civilian population. And here is what their plan is. But once again, this is, they are using the language of the emergency plan: health, safety, and welfare. Whenever you see that, that is the emergency clause that suspends the Constitution. So that's when they're going to bring in this universe or this public good that they're going to dispense to you. They're going to seize everything and they're going to dole it out to you at whatever level they deem is appropriate or that they want to, or that they've all decided at Davos or the World Economic Forum or the UN or whatever. The implementation plan, it was supposed to be passed, like I said, and then they were giving them 90 days to implement this plan. We did see this back with the communicable disease um, regulation that was entered into the Federal Register and by the Health and Human Services. It was proposed on August 15th, 2016, and it became a regulatory regulation that basically on October 15th, 2016. So these things do happen really quick. But remember, we're not going to know because they're going to hide this in other legislation, omnibuses, pork bills, and other things, so that we never see this, but it is an operational go at this point. So I'm going to stop sharing, and so let's see. I think I've covered everything. So I don't know if you have questions, I will hang out for a few minutes, and if you have questions or if my producers saw any questions, I was much too busy presenting to see the questions. If you do have questions after the chat, once we get off, I don't see the chat. So if you did have a question, I wouldn't see it unless they bring it to my attention. But you can always leave it down below. And I do spend time going through the chat and trying to answer your questions. And if perchance you think of something, you see this down the road, just write Celeste at celestialreport.com if you want any of these documents. And I will endeavor put Snowball Earth. And then if you knew which particular document you wanted, because I don't have it, I just had it like I screen shared something real time. And then I also had a little Word document on the Adam and Eve story. So, do I have any questions? Oh, I see a question. Universal basic income, or so basically they are going to take everything as a result of our catastrophe, which is unleashing technology for to annihilate humanity and erase human civilization from planet Earth. And in that process, they will steal everything that you have, which is exactly what Klaus Schwab said he would do. and they would provide you anything that you need. No longer will there be stores. You're not going to be able to buy stuff on Amazon. The government will dispense it if they feel that you need it, and it will be sliding down because they are aware. If they told you in 2019 it's a post-human world, they do not want humans on the planet. Okay, so I guess that is it for now. I hope you enjoyed this sit rep report and that it is very sobering. I would just stand firm on Psalm 147. This is a time to get spiritually right with the Lord. Let Him be your strength and strong tower during this time. This is not something that you can plan or prep for. I know some people are planning that civilization will be erased, but as in the past, as I mentioned, humans have made it through, but it was different times. They blocked off, the tunnels under the earth, and all sorts of different things. We're facing the synthetic biology threat. So we face a very different time than the previous times our Earth has gone through this. So don't let it discourage you. Just, put it under your hat. Know that we are headed for an ice age, a global ice age, and the powers of be know this, and they are going to put in tyrannical laws and martial law, if you will, of the whole planet lockstep. So this is Celeste from the Celestial Report. This is your situation report for this week. God bless, and we will see you next week.